Let's see here. I think. Oh, look at that. Now it's working. Great. Alright, I'm gonna start recording here. And I think I can go out in front of the thing now. And I'm all set. So I'm recording and streaming right now. Let's see how it does. Oh, dude. So now what I'm doing is I'm recording, right? Just a normal 4K video that I'm going to be posting later. But I'm also streaming in a vertical like content box here. So you guys can see a couple of different things. And this is kind of fun because like normally like you can see, well, you can't really see if you're watching the stream, but if you're watching my video, you can see my legs cut off, but in the stream, you know that it's so narrow that it keeps me in this box. So it's actually like pretty awesome. So now I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna just start my streaming stuff. But let's wheel. Ah, dang. So one problem is that I don't have my foot pedal connected to the thing, so I have to do that manually. So that's something to work on for the next one, right? In the meantime, you know, I'll let you guys see what I'm doing on my camera. I'm probably not gonna be yuck. I'm still sick. Sorry about that, guys. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go over here and I got a little wet box, so you guys will be able to see what I got cooking up in my wet box here. I got a bunch of just clay ready to be wedged up and thrown. So it's kind of cool. So you guys will be able to see like what I'm doing on the top here, as well as what I got going on the wheel. Stuff in there is getting a little bit too hard, so I gotta make sure I give it a little. You gotta water the plants. You gotta water the plants. Look at that. Pretty nice. And I'm going over the top here. I'm gonna cover that up. And so what I'm doing here is I have the plastic covering up like a good portion of the thing. So when I put the lid on, it traps all that moisture in there. And then I have plaster poured in the bottom. I don't know if you guys can really see the white plaster, but that's kind of how I situate my wet box there. So I got some weird chunky stuff here that I don't really want to deal with, but you kind of have to deal a little bit with it. But here we're going. We're just going to go right into the wedging here. And I could probably turn up this music a little bit. Look at that, guys. Look. I feel like the vertical format for this is kind of sick. Not gonna lie, I feel like I'm vibing right now. Also, after today, I gotta get rid of all there's so much water on the inside of the or clay on the inside of my wheel head. I don't want it to get down the spinning part, you know. I should have done that beforehand, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, so here we are, wedging this up too. Alright. I feel like I could probably get the top part to like slide down in a better way. So you guys, I feel like if somebody was to join right now and they were just to see like that top sliver, they might not even see it and just think nothing's going on. And it might be more interesting for you guys to see exactly what the heck I'm doing. Maybe a little bit better. I feel like if I'm streaming vertical, well, that means you guys are barely gonna be able to like really see like the little intricate parts of what's going on my head cam here. All right. Right now I'm just trying to get a lot of this clay I left out for too long, so it's pretty stiff, but I do like throwing with stiff clay, and so that's part of my dealio here is I like the stiff clay. I guess what should I do now? Now I guess I gotta get some more water. So I'm gonna take this stuff out of the top there. And I think I'm all prepped. Just take a deep breath before you start throwing there, guys. I think sometimes we get like way too amped up, like when we're thinking about doing the thing, right? Like I'm thinking about doing all this streaming stuff, and so I think I gotta make sure I center my mind around the actual throwing of the stuff, right? Okay, well, here we go. So we got a nice little point or pillar there. Push that down. Okay. Dun-dun-dun. I'm just getting that somewhat nice and wedged in there. And if I'm looking right now, let's see how this looks pretty good. I just can't go past this height. Man, that's like, that's gonna be a problem, I think. That's okay though. Oh man. That's really gonna be irritating though for you guys, I think. Okay, so the clay, you guys can still see it, okay. I'll have to like look back and see how much I cut off. So right now, since the clay is so hard, as I'm trying to overpower the clay is ripping itself, right? And it's not actually wanting to listen to my hands, you know? So you always gotta go that 2 lanes of traffic back and forth there. That's what's really gonna get you, I don't even know. That's what's gonna get you uncentered, right? Like you gotta imagine a lot of people are, when they're pushing their hands, they're pushing it towards the center. That's not how you get something center, believe it or not. You're always pushing past center, through it. You know, and so when I give that car explanation, it's to help you maybe visualize it a little bit better. 2 lanes of traffic, they're coming past each other. That in between is where center is. Okay, all right, here we go. So I'm gonna take my fist right here. Sorry, it might hit the microphone here for a second. And so since the clay is so stiff, you kind of have to use, you have to use more strength, but where is your strength coming from? It's not coming from your arms, right? We're not all built like bodybuilders, you know? And so how do you generate that strength? Is you actually use your body, you know? So that's how I normally do it. Take my fist. I'm slowly bringing that out toward my palm here. And we'll get something pretty close. That's within tolerance, right? And then you want to start with making that little hole on the top. Nice. A little bit of water on the inside there. And so what am I doing there is I'm trying to just get this centered, because when I made that hole, it's not wanting to stay centered, right? And so what am I doing? I'm holding my hand while I'm taking that wall down to where my thumb, my fingers meet. And so that way I can get a pretty nice, even, you know, circle on the inside there. And I'm opening this up. Remember, I'm using like the very tips of my fingers, almost like I'm Captain Hook, right? That like hook, let's see if you guys can see. That's what that hook and that scraping, right? Almost like you're scratching against the like a blackboard, like a chalkboard, you know? Like that's what's gonna help you move that bottom layer of clay pretty easily. Like if you feel like you can't do it, then you just don't have your hands in the right spot, right? I feel like a lot of people, you know, they're like, oh man, I don't have the strength for it. It's not really about the strength. It's all about where your hand positioning's at. And so this is pretty freaking wobbly here, right? If I'm looking at this, this is kind of wobbly. So we're trying to get it a little bit less, but a little bit's okay, because our first pole, our llama pole here, we're gonna bring it up into a volcano. And so there we go. Look at that. Nice. Okay, so we got our volcano. And from our volcano, what we really want to do is we want to take our knuckle right on that bottom edge there. We're slowly bringing that in to our finger. And we're trying to equal the clay, or equalize the walls, right? What we don't want to have happen is we don't want it to skip or buckle. We don't want one side to become thicker than the other. It's going to naturally want to do that. So you kind of got to fight it a little bit, right? Okay, so again, take my finger on the bottom here. So that top rim, you can see it just feels so tight on that top rim. And so you want to just make sure you're not lidding up before you release that clay on the top there, right? And so every single pole, you got to imagine it's like, have you ever seen the, you know, when the people are really into yoga, you know, they look at the 7 stages, right? And you start at the top and go down. We're like the opposite. Like, instead of, I don't know how many stages there are, right? But it's that same kind of coiling up to that release of the top, right? And so here we are, taking our hands, and then we're getting a little bit thin, so we're just trying to be slow with our hands there. We got one more pole to do, okay? And with this last pole, you really want to be slow with it. So we got a little buckle on this top part, so it's really thin right there. So we got to be a little bit careful there. That wasn't a really great pole. So we're actually going to go to the bottom, and we have to take some of that clay from that bottom edge. So there we go. So we push that down, because we're not trimming these pots, so we got to make sure that we are pushing that clay around a little bit nicer on that bottom, so then we get rid of that heaviness. Right, we want the pots, like when you pick them up, we want them to feel like they're just like flowing upwards, right? We don't want them to feel like they're stuck to the table there. Getting some more of this water out of that bottom. I throw with a lot of water, so that's something I gotta watch out. Some people, you know, they throw and they don't have any water even in their splash pan when they're done, and I'm like, what the heck? Not me though. Okay, so here we go. So we're gonna start pretty slow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we got it kind of nice. It's pretty thin here. Like if I'm feeling this, this is right where it got way too thin. And so what I'm actually going to do, I actually have to start below it. This is where I think my hands might rip through, but we'll see in a second, right? So right underneath, I call this type of pull the spider pull, right? And so it ripped there, so I'm going to slow down. And we're not going to be scared of a little rip, you know. When we see that rip, we're like, okay, go time. Alright, so still the clay's too stiff to manually want to twist down, so we got to help it out a little bit. There we go. And so you can see where it ripped, but now we have that nice sort of twisting happening from that bottom piece. And so this is where, like when I first saw this, that's why I call these things my trees, you know, because it really reminded me of a tree. Okay, so as soon as we got so much on the bottom, right, and I'm not really liking how the top turned out, that means that we're going to have to do something crazy with this bottom edge here. So just defining that edge to that bottom separation a little bit with my fingers there. And we're going right up underneath. Nice. Okay, a little bit of water. Going in there with my pinkies. And we're slowly just trying to thin this out. You don't want to go too much too fast, right? And you can do this twice, but I usually just do it once. And I just leave it at that, because sometimes when you do it too many times, it ends up just flopping over, and then you got a big mess to frickin' figure out. So here I go. I'm going to start cutting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 6. Nice job, guys. So we're matching the 6 that we had for the veins of our tree. We also have 6 for the tendrils of the skirt on the bottom of the pot here. Okay. And so this is like one of my favorite parts. I feel like this is, I had a friend who would talk about like, oh, that just set it off, right? And I thought that was kind of a cool little word. And so sometimes when I do this part, I'm like, ooh, this is what sets the pots off sometimes for me. So this one's pretty loose. Again, you know, it's not ideal to have that top, you know, collapse the way it did, but I've always think that sometimes, you know, you get some really wacky results if you just let it be, right? And so that's part of my pottery voice, right? Is I really like to explore form. You know, I don't want to be making like forms that people have made for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. I'm trying to make my own sort of pottery forms. All right, so here we're going again. We're starting for our second one here. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna go with this. The last one is we're gonna go with the largest. So we'll save the largest for last. Man, sometimes when I'm sick, like I don't really know what I'm saying half the time, which may not be the best for streaming. But anyway, here we go. We got our hands pushing down. And so I like to do this kind of almost like heart compression bumping here. And I'm just splaying that outward to get it as centered as possible before I even start throwing, right? And so here I am, hand on the bottom, taking my other fingers. I'm just slowly bringing that up. Okay. And so you can feel it running a rip in that bottom part too. So we're just gonna straight back down. And then you just curl that up and you take that up. And so I can feel that it's wanting to rip right in this middle part. Look at that. It's already almost ripped off here. So like you can see, like here. I don't know if you guys can really see, but this part it's wanting to just rip out, right? And so that's what happens when the clay gets really, really like stiff and hard. So I just kind of like roll with the punches. If I feel a bubble, I don't really worry about it. But ideally, you'd want to throw with clay maybe a little bit softer than this. Okay. Alrighty. And here I go. I'm going to clamp my elbow in. Look at me clamp. And I'm using my body weight to push that down, right? And so that's what's helping me center, is always being clamped down somewhere. Now I'm going to set my fist on top of the clay. Look at that. So we got a little bit of a nice little hockey, I call it like a hockey puck, you know? Get a little bit of water, make a little pond or pool. And you can't have your tadpoles dry out, right? So you always fill up your pool or your pond just a little bit, right? I think I realized with this streaming vertically, I should just zoom in more. Like this, all this space over here where my hands are, that's not really helping you guys out, right? I think I just need to focus it more, or narrow that focus on my camera down a little bit more. And here I am, I'm pulling this out, and you can see how it's a little bit off on one side. You know, very rarely do I get it perfect. But that doesn't stop you from throwing, right? I think a lot of people, they fuss over getting the thing centered, right? They either fuss over it, they don't care at all, right? There's that like a happy in between that you kind of gotta, get cooking up for yourselves, right? If you go too far in one direction, you're gonna become like a little bit isolated with, what you're gonna be able to produce. Alright, here we go. So we got our first pull here. And we're going to go very light and slow. I feel a couple of bubbles. But again, we're just trying to make our little volcano. Alright, great. Volcano complete. So now I'm going back in the bottom here. A little bit of water. And I'm bringing my knuckle, right up on this bottom edge. Slowly pushing that up towards my fingers. And look at that. I think that looks just great. So that, remember this first pull, that my voice almost cracked there. Pull! This first pull is not really for height. Remember, like we said when that other one that we just finished, this first pull is really just for getting that what is it called? That clay equal. We're even going to try to get it a little bit even more equal here. And again, very slow. Slow, direct, and focused. There we go. Alright, making that little separation. Remember, very nice and slow on this bottom. We got a little bump, and I always say this is the gift from the pot to us, right? Is this little bump. And the clay, it really only wants this bump to go in one direction, and that's up. And so we got to help it out. We got to say, okay, buddy, we're going to help you out. We'll get you as tall as we possibly can. And so we got a little bit of wobble in that middle part, but still, this is pretty good. Alrighty. And so I think I probably have one more pull in me realistically, but I've been doing them way too thin recently, so I think I'm going to chill out, push that clay down, and I'm going to go right into, well, first I got to get the water out of the inside here. But I'm just going to go right into the tree, I think, from this point. I think that's like my biggest problem recently with a lot of them is I've been going too thin, trying to get too thin on this bottom, but I end up thinning out this top a little bit too much. So then I don't, especially with the hard clay, you don't really have any control over where that spiral gets laid, right? And part of me wants to have the spiral lay nice and tight right in the middle. And so we'll see how we do. Oh, we ripped through there. That's not good. Okay. So here we are. There we go. Look at how that frickin' just winds up. I'm gonna be slow when we release off here. Right. Look at that. Okay. So this one's more like the trees that we have been getting, like the image of them, you know, when we haven't been going too thin. So here we are. Look at that. Get a little bit of water on there. Pinky right up underneath, guys. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that. Okay. We want to get some of this water out of here. And again, you know what? If I'm looking at this one, I feel like this one's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I've always thought these look kind of like petals, like flower petals, right? And so look at how this kind of works on here. Just like little petals on the bottom. And I think that looks pretty great there, guys. Get right up underneath. Get all that water out. Okay, that's number 2. So we got one more for you guys. And then I gotta switch it up here. And then, you know, I learned a couple things from this instance of doing the vertical streaming. I think I'm just gonna keep experimenting with it, you know. I think it's good to try out like new things. I throw every single day. I record every single day, and I have been doing it for like, I don't even know, like 250 days now, maybe. Like I really spend a lot of time, and that's in a row, like nonstop. But what I've learned is that you got to be really open to things changing when they come to you, right? Like, I think that's really the power of doing things every day, is you start realizing stuff like your iteration process becomes highly compact, right? Like a week becomes like a whole entire, what you would be able to do in like a year is able to be found out in a week just by forcing yourself to like do the thing every day. And so you discover a lot of things, and you also get a lot of failures, and you also find a lot of things that flop and things that work out and things that you've been doing too long, so you got to swap it up, right? And so that's what this sort of streaming thing is for me right now. I've been trying to work on getting some like really cool content for videos, and then vicariously I've been pushing along this idea of streaming, which has been kind of exciting. Again, this clay is a little bit softer, so you can see how we can push it around just a little bit nicer. And let's see. Yeah, I think we can do something funky for you guys now. So right at the bottom here. Oh, you gotta be careful you don't lift it up off that. You heard it? So that's over the top. So when you're slow though, right? And so you can kind of let that clay do whatever, right? As long as you can catch it. The other day I had like the coolest catch, and it was during a song, like was playing, like the climax of the song happened and I caught it. It was freaking crazy. Like I felt like I was like an alien or something, like a DJ, pottery DJ. And again, always see how my elbows clamp down in my body there. I never have chicken wing arms. So, fist on top. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Nice. Okay. Little fist. Sick. Okay. Open up that little pond again. There we go. A little bit of water in there. And remember, we want to bring that wall down because it's not a perfect circle here right now. And so we want to get it a little bit more even. So every time we open that up, we're just opening and pushing our thumb down on that ridge there. There we go, look at that. So this one's pretty close to being perfect center. And so you got to be careful because sometimes when you get a thing close to perfect center, it's also a death sentence, right? And what do I mean by that is that, you know, you get everything all nice and perfect, and all of a sudden your poles are flowing like gold, right? And you go too close to the sun, like Icarus, right? That's the guy who flew too close to the sun. Yeah, you want to be more like Sisyphus, you know, just pushing up that rock every day. And sometimes it's going to be a struggle, and that's fine. And sometimes it glides, but you still are pushing up that rock no matter what, right? So that's the kind of mentality that I like to bring to the clay here. And again, very slowly bringing this in. And I have a weird little ridge mark on that middle part here when I was feeling it, like a bubble of some sort. So I got to make sure I deal with that. So we're reaching our hand in the volcano. Burns a little bit, right? And so the thing is you just don't want to make channels. As soon as you start making channels for your fingers to fall back into, that's when you have to really follow the clay, right? It's gonna like want you to go back in that channel for your next pole. And so you don't really want that. You want the opposite. You want to kind of keep it numb until you get to the height, and then you can really show the breadth of your pole. Man, the clay is always so stiff at the top, man. I just don't. Man, I feel so frustrated about that. It's so funny too because I was like letting my clay. I actually got to be a little bit careful here. It doesn't buckle. I'm pretty thin here. I can't be messing around with that too much more. Well, but I was letting my clay dry because I got what I call peanut butter clay, is when the clay just feels like freaking creamy peanut butter. And I was like, well, I'll let it out for a little bit. And 1 8-hour sleep later, shit, you know, I left it all out. Hey, chill. So we gotta slow down our wheel a little bit here. So we're getting a little bit too thin. So we just want to barely touch that rim there. Look at that. Okay. And so we don't want to mess around with that top too much because it got too thin. But, you know, maybe it'll be something cool for us later on. Is that already 40 minutes? No way. No shot. Well, I got a whole new thing. Okay. All right, anyway, here we go. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. Hands right up underneath. Deep breath. Nice. I gotta go get something to eat after this. I don't really have any food upstairs, so I'll probably go to, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Jersey Mike's. You can get this sandwich called a Giant, right? And that sandwich, man, that thing will last you like 2 days. It's like awesome. I mean, they're not like cheap, you know what I mean? But they're, for 2 days of food, you could eat, I think they're like anywhere from like $10 to $15 maybe. Even a little bit more, like 17. But $17 for 2 days of food, I don't know, man. That's not too terrible. Alright, our pinky is just taking this out, right? And this is another one where I think we're gonna cut. Right? It's like, sometimes you really just will feel the pot. Oh, you know what? This isn't a cut. I can't believe it. I was looking at it, and I think I just wanted a cut because, you know, I don't know if anybody's watching, but sometimes when I think the cut looks cool, but it's not always what's right for the pot, right? So when I see this as a flap over, like long flap over. So here, get my hands a little bit wet. Okay, so what do I mean by long flap over? It's gonna be like this. Let me emphasize these little flaps, right? Always emphasize it. Little curls. And I really like the way it kind of folds back in, right? I think that looks really cool on some of these pots. You gotta always have a good variety. Now it's gonna be, the fun part is gonna be to see how I can show the pots without it being freaking crazy here. So maybe one in the front. No, that gets cut off. Not like that though. I just realized, why is this off? Well, whatever. It's fine, I guess. Okay. Number 2 kind of is right here, right? I think that looks kind of cool. And we got number 3, which you're gonna have sitting up on this. I'm gonna pull it out to the side a little bit so I have some more room. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we got the fallen soldier back here. Alrighty, look at that. I kind of want to show you guys the spirally aspect of it, because when they tip over, you can kind of see the underside of them, which I think that looks pretty nice. Okay, so let's wipe my hands off here. This isn't going to mean anything to you guys, but on my recorded software I have voice commands. So camera B, there we go. Oh, but it's not really. Also, I gotta make sure I get this in focus here. What the heck's going on? There we go. Alrighty. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I forgot to turn on my camera. Alright. Well, I think for the stream, maybe I'll do the stream thumbnail. I'll do my main thumbnail first and stream thumbnail after, maybe. Or maybe I just keep it on this one and then I'll just do the outro twice. I'm finding all sorts of the funny little things that kind of mess up my video here. Dang, I'm giant right now. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. You know, this is my first stream here, vertical style. And so we got this pot right here. You know, I think it was okay. I'll give that one like a 4, right? And then we go over here, we got our pot here. If I'm looking at this thing, I don't know. This one maybe is like, I kind of like that tear that happened and it still survived. So we'll give this one also a 4. And then our savior here, oh, he's like a 3. But yeah, anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. Well, watch this. All the best. Oh, that didn't work at all. Okay. Wait, hold on. Why didn't that work? Okay. Here, we're trying that again. All the best. Whatever. We tried.